they understand, and the target as are kind of like aligned with where you are and what you can do and everything. I think their goal is to motivate you to push yourself to the limits. And I think there's also psychological aspects where it feels easier to maybe exchange with your co-founder and like relieve some of the pressure.
All right, this is another episode of the Form Your Own Pack podcast by Founders Pack. My guest today is Ruben Fiszel, and he is the founder of Windmill. How are you doing, Ruben?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. We're always excited. Now, you were part of the Y Combinator program, I think, in 2022. Which cohort was it? I forget.
It's 22. It was 6 months ago.
Okay.
So we're alumni now,
You're
but
alumni.
just
That's
our
amazing.
yeah.
All right.
Yes.
So for people that don't know, who is Ruben and what is Windmill?
So myself, I have a background in computer science. I've done research on compilers, worked for Palantir as a dev tool lead, then worked as a head of engineering of a startup that were very R&D, that we were on the state of the art of doing homomorphic encryption. And both in those large and small organizations, I've seen the needs of having a framework for organizing scripts, flows, and building dashboards. And there are some solutions, but most of them are too rigid because they take the stance that they're only low code and they have like a lot of like they give they they're very they give you a language that are proprietary or like that are very specific to those tools. And if you're a software engineer, you already know how to script, you're already in Python, TypeScript. You don't want to learn a new language just for a tool. On the other hand, when I wrote scripts and everything, it got really messy because it's really hard to share them. You want to separate the logic and the credentials. It's really hard to compose them, to make flows and everything. So I thought there was a need for like a compromise between low code and actual code that we hadn't reached yet. And also that because it's a developer tool, it should be open source. And so I had this inspiration for a long time to do something like that. And so a year ago, I started Windmill as a solo founder, did that for basically 6 months, got into YC, and then grew the team from there. Like we're about to launch our 2.0. So the software being only 1 year old, this is pretty much a 1.0 in all regards, but we're probably doing some like we're being very wide in what we do, meaning that we have like a serverless layer so that we can run the script self-hosted, and this is like a good replacement for Lambdas, for instance. We have a flow layer so that you can compose those scripts together. We have a hub where you can share those scripts, and so there is some aspects that are similar to Zapier, where in most cases you would reuse steps that are made by others or made by us. And then we have a UI dashboard builder, which is very similar to Retool, so that you can leverage the scripts that you've already made to make admin panels. For the flows, we drew a lot of inspiration from like Temporal, which is the like a great also open source workflow framework. I think our main differences for the people that know Temporal is that we're trying to be a little bit more simple. So Temporal is code to orchestrate code, and we're doing low code to orchestrate code, meaning that we think that most of the value is in the steps themselves and not how we orchestrate them. And so for the orchestration, we have something that is much more similar to a low-code builder, where you can decide to say, well, these steps, for instance, require approval before continuing forward. These steps is going to branch. So you can have like the full or full of like the main workflow engines like Airflow and Temporal, but in a simpler way. And I'll say the vision in general is that those things that should be quick to make are quick to make, but they are not done in a hacky way, because in the end they rely on your code for the steps themselves, and the code itself can be Python, TypeScript, so it can use any dependencies, so it can really have all the power of like what you're used to when you actually do proper code. And so like really getting that compromise between velocity and powerfulness, and doing it in an enterprise grade platform where basically you get RBAC, you get audit logs, you get like a very nice web UI where you can actually write the script and edit them and see like all their history. So everything you would expect, I'll say, for such an enterprise platform.
That is amazing. So a couple of unusual things that we talked about before we jumped on. One is that it's unusual for there to be a solo founder in YC. So I'm curious what your experience has been like. And were there any other solo founders in your class?
So there were a few. Some of them actually found a founder along the way,
Oh, good.
but yes, we were not very many. I think we were like around 2% of the applicants. And for me, it wasn't necessarily much of like I really necessarily wanted to be a solo founder. It's mostly like something that happened in the sense of like I really knew what I wanted to do and I started building it. And then basically along the way, I progressed, got into YC, and then basically I never really had the opportunity to like find the right person. And it's a project that takes a lot of vision, and that it was something that was kind of like easy to kind of like do on my own. Would I recommend it, and how was my experience? I would say it's hard and it gets harder, and it's something that I would almost say it's the easy part is to start as a solo founder, because the list of responsibility and challenge keep growing, and you don't grow yourself. You're still the only one person, and kind of like having a person to split the load is uh is 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 something that I would that I think could make my life easier sometimes. So I think my experience in YC being a solo founder, YC is not designed for solo founders, not because they have anything against it, but it's simply that the goal here is to get a lot of velocity, to grow a lot really quickly. And there is only so much you can do as a solo founder. Like being two-person highly motivated or like three, there's always things that you can do faster than being on your own. So I think it's like it's a lot of pressure. On the other hand, I mean, YC is great. They understand, and the target are kind of like aligned with where you are and what you can do and everything. I think their goal is to motivate you to push yourself to the limits. And I think there's also psychological aspects where it feels easier to maybe exchange with your co-founder and like relieve some of the pressure. So it's hard. On the other hand, if you're a solo founder and you've decided to keep being a solo founder, I would still really recommend going through YC, because this is like the best thing that happened to me and a big accelerator for the course of the company. But it's not going to be like all like very kind of like a pleasant voyage all along the way.
Hey, well, you know what? Nothing worth doing is ever easy usually. So, okay, if you could magically wave a wand and your ideal co-founder showed up, what would that be?
I think, to be honest, is someone I would get along very well with, and I would be as passionate as me on this project. I I mean, from what I've learned and I've seen with other co-founder dynamics, I think what get recommended a lot is to have complementary skills, but I don't think that's the most important thing. To be honest, I think just having someone you can trust that is very motivated and will want to kind of like be share like I'll say a bit of the burden, the excitement, and everything is the most important. So find someone you get along very well with, that you trust, and also find someone that you share the same passion and have the right motivation to build a startup with. The fact that you are complementary is something that you can always hire someone complementary, but it's a lot harder to hire someone that it would be your the right partner for this, and in the good and bad times. So it's kind of a wedding in my experience. But being a solo founder, I would say my experience is also limited, so maybe don't take my word for it.
That sounds like very good advice, and I think you are unique. I'm not surprised that it's only 2% because we don't hear very many that are solo. So kudos to you for going through that. If you could offer other founders only one piece of advice, what would that be, Ruben?
Um, don't give up. I think it's like it takes a bit of time, and I think there are like bad and good times, and sometimes you are going to be the only one to believe in it for a long time, and that's okay. And I think there's also kind of like it's easier than you think. I think there are like some things where like if especially as me, if you had been an employee for so long and kind of like you used to think as an employee, there are something that seems like that you can do or you shouldn't do, or like you put yourself a lot of mental barrier. But actually, it's easier than you think to start, especially with all the tools that we have available today. Incorporation is easy, legal is easy. The VC are, they understand your situation. They're trying not to kind of like have a ready-made solution with uh, product market fit. They're looking for someone that has potential and they will help you along the way. And so there's a lot of help that you can receive as long as you have the right mindset and like show that you're ready to tackle on these kind of challenges. So I think it's easier than you think, and like you just have to keep going. That would be my main recommendations.
I love it. That is great advice. What has the role of community or partnerships been in your success so far?
Um, so can you repeat the question? Because I just want to.
Yeah, one of the themes that we have here is to scale through community or partnerships. And I'm just curious what the role of community and or partnerships has been in your success.
I mean, there's a few communities. I think for me, I mean, there is the French community because French tech is very small, and so we're all trying to help each other. There's a YC community, which is like an amazing community. People that are, I think, the most important in the community is to have like a shared mindset. And I identify myself very much with like some of the mantras of like YC to kind of like do things that don't scale, to just go out in the world and do it. And so there's a lot of like be simple, don't overdo stuff, and so a lot of those, and also of course make something that people want, right? So there is a lot of like YC is an amazing community, and there's amazing founders in this community, and everyone is exceptional, and it's kind of like, and they're also very looking forward to help one another. So it really feels like a community. There is also, of course, well, my investors too. I think they've been great help, and I'm really grateful for the trust they put in the company, right? Because I think it's a leap of faith, and so like having support like that is very beneficial. So yeah, that would be kind of like the one thing, the three most that I can think of.
That is a lot. That is amazing. Well, we definitely want you to stay in touch with us and be part of our community. We obviously, I'll send you an invite, as I mentioned, to intros, which is automated introductions every week to other founders. We got a lot of YC, Techstars, and Hustle Fun in there. So I think you'll find some compatriots there, hopefully. What is the best way to get in touch with you, Ruben, and who is a good connection for you?
I mean, my email, ruben@windmill.dev is a good way. I mean, I'm also available on LinkedIn, but I think sending me an email is really the best way to get in touch. And right now, as we are launching our 2.0, our production ready, and I have like had great success scaling the product in the pilot that we've done, we're really looking for like intros to potential clients. And so our potential clients right now would be a startup that is about to scale and has been have like operational issues scaling up because the script is not they're organized a lot of things through scripts and it's very disorganized and kind of like they reach the limits of what they could do with that, or startups that have realized the limits of like doing things with low code and would like to rationalize their operations. And the last thing is a larger enterprise where they would want to have like one unique framework that is designed for doing things the way they would do it with code, but that is enable them to have a lot more velocity and so go across the department and have a single way to do things because through the power of code, you can replace a lot of tools.
Wonderful. Okay, we look forward to helping connect you to as many people that match that. We have a lot of people that probably do within our group, so that is terrific. We're going to wrap with one final thing, Ruben. I want to thank you for spending time with us today. When we have interesting people that are on the podcast, we like you to nominate another interesting person. Typically, it's a founder or an investor in a scalable startup. So who would you, Ruben, like to introduce us to that might be a great future guest?
I think the people at Metriport, Colin Endinga, would be great person. It seems that you already know them.
We know Colin. So you know what? Colin was like, I think the second guest on our podcast.
Okay.
Which is great. I have no problem. I'm happy to talk to Colin again. If you have someone else, we'd like to meet them too. But Colin, you're right, is great, and they've had a lot of success. We're really excited that you've been nominated him because I love Colin. He's a Canadian too. He's
Uh,
from like British Columbia, right?
yes, I think so we have a section at YC of open source founders,
Oh, okay.
and everyone is an amazing founder there. You can talk to Emmanuel from Semantic.
Great.
Uh, he's a great person. You can also talk to Gabriel B from Coverage Cat.
Amazing.
Um, so yeah, those are people I
Those are
would
three
highly
great
recommend.
nominations, and I like all of them. And I just happen to know Colin, so that's great. We're happy to talk to Colin again too. So, Ruben, thank you so much for your time today, and we look forward to following you on your journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. That was great. Thank you.
Anytime.